Ethan McAllister had always preferred the quiet corners of Lincoln High's library to the echoing roar of its gymnasium. He was a runner, yes, but a quiet one. Someone who could log 10 miles on the rural trails around his small Ohio town without saying more than a handful of words to anyone all day. It wasn't fame or varsity letters that drew him to the track. It was the way the wind swept clean the clutter in his head, the soft rhythm of his breath, the gravelly crunch of his shoes. Those sounds were a private hymn. He had saved every dollar from his summer job at the grocery store to buy the sleek, cobalt blue shoes that now lived in a shoe bag beneath his bed. They were light as air and fit him like they'd been stitched from his own resolve. That September Saturday dawned with the faint copper scent of autumn in the air. It was the day of the Tri-County Invitational, the biggest meet of the season, and Ethan's chance to prove to Coach Valdez, and maybe himself, that his solitary training had meant something. He arrived early, as always, letting the rising sun warm his shoulders while he jogged the perimeter of the field. The crowd trickled in, teams in matching sweats, parents with folding chairs, the local paper's sports photographer setting up near the finish line. Ethan was tightening the laces of his treasured blue shoes when a sudden commotion rippled through the cluster of runners at the starting area. Someone shouted, "Oh no, the sole's split!" Ethan glanced up. A boy he didn't recognize was kneeling in the grass, holding a shoe that flopped open like a broken jaw. The kid's face was pale with shock. Coach Valdez ambled over to Ethan, eyebrows raised. "That's Lucas Grant from Milltown High," he said.
Fast kid.
"State qualifier times last year." Ethan's stomach nodded. He'd read about Lucas, a junior with a natural stride and a record of slicing through courses like a breeze through wheat fields. Lucas looked around desperately. "I can't race like this," he muttered to no one in particular. "My backup pair's back home." "I thought these would hold." The starter's whistle shrilled, calling runners to their lanes. Lucas stood frozen, a bird with clipped wings. Something inside Ethan, the same quiet instinct that made him stop for injured animals on long trail runs, nudged him forward. Before he could second-guess it, he called out, "Hey, what size are you?" Lucas blinked. 10.5, Ethan exhaled. "Same here." He bent and tugged at his laces. "Take mine," Lucas stared. "You're kidding. Do you want to run or not?" A brief electric silence. Then Lucas's face broke into a grin of disbelief. "You're serious?" Ethan held out the shoes, their blue catching the early light. "They'll bring you luck." Lucas pulled them on quickly, giving Ethan a breathless, "Thank you," before sprinting to the starting line. The grass was damp and the gravel rough, but he hardly felt it. When the starter pistol cracked, he launched forward, the earth cold but alive beneath his feet. Each step felt raw and startling, but strangely freeing. Lucas surged ahead, his borrowed shoes flashing. Ethan kept a steady pace, every footfall a reminder that this was about something more than times or medals. By the second mile, he could taste iron in his throat and tiny cuts scored the pads of his feet, but he didn't care. Parents and classmates shouted from the sidelines. He heard Coach Valdez's startled bark. "McAllister! Where are your shoes?" At the final hill, the crowd's roar swelled. Lucas crested it first, gliding as though those cobalt blue shoes were wings. Ethan followed, legs burning. The finish line loomed, white paint against trampled grass. Lucas crossed first, arms lifted. Ethan arrived seconds later, barefoot, blood spotting the green. The aftermath was a blur of congratulatory shouts and camera flashes. Lucas doubled back through the crowd until he found Ethan, who sat on the grass with a paper cup of water, inspecting his torn-up soles. "You are unbelievable," Lucas said, handing back the shoes. They were sweat-darkened but still bright. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll clean them," Ethan deadpanned, then smiled despite himself. Lucas laughed. "Deal, and—" "Thank you. Really, you didn't have to do that," Ethan shrugged. "Shoes are just shoes. Races are, well, more than that." Coach Valdez approached, arms crossed but eyes soft. "That," he said, "was the most sportsmanlike thing I've seen in 20 years. And you, McAllister, you still placed 5th, barefoot. That's grit." The local paper snapped a photo of the two boys, one holding the cobalt blue shoes like a trophy, the other barefoot and grinning. Over the next weeks, The story spread through the school and beyond. Strangers stopped Ethan at the grocery store to congratulate him. A regional running blog posted the photo under the headline, "Boundless Race. Runner lends shoes, still places barefoot." But what stayed with Ethan wasn't the attention. It was the memory of the race itself, of feeling the earth directly under his feet, of realizing that kindness could be as swift and simple as unlacing a pair of shoes. Lucas kept in touch. They met for weekend trail runs, swapping stories about routes and training quirks. In the quiet rhythm of shared strides, a friendship grew. One crisp evening in late October, as they jogged along the river's edge, Lucas said, "I've been thinking about that day." "You taught me something, yeah? What's that?" "That winning isn't everything," Lucas replied. "It's the way we help each other get there." Ethan smiled into the setting sun. "Guess that makes two of us." The river glimmered gold, the path ahead stretching wide and endless, like the boundless race they were still running, side by side.